May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be ever acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength, my Redeemer. Amen. Today's readings are rich and full of many messages for us. The Old Testament is echoed in our gospel with Jesus' miracles of healing the blind and the deaf. So sometimes it's hard to discern what direction we take. Mark kind of shared that last week, that you begin a week out. Well, Bob and I probably begin 2 weeks out because it takes us a lot longer. But last week's sermon really hit the nail on the head with a message to be slow to anger. And I confess, I too failed miserably. So I vowed to make an extra effort this past week. And then I started to compile my sermon, and an even bigger 2x4 clobbered me on the head by the words from James and the Gospel of Mark. We have all heard how important faith is, but today's writing from James really stood out to me. So faith by itself, if it has no works, is dead. I don't remember him ever saying that, so it really kind of hit me. It's interesting, every 3 years we hear the same readings and something will just kind of clobber you. So if we did an instant replay of last week, what actions did we make in our walk of life that would make our faith visible? That's kind of a hard one. James challenges us by asking if we have favorites, or if we show partiality, or make judgments by appearance. He asks if we really fulfill the royal law according to the scriptures. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. I think we all fall short if we really think about it. I attended the Light of Hope breakfast this past week, and we heard from 2 sisters who had been abused in their own home. And I was surprised they could share their story. One is in college and one is a senior. And I was terrified of speaking in front of people at that age, let alone sharing something so personal. Our own Monica was also a speaker, and she shared that she has done over 900 interviews of children that have experienced abuse. This event is sponsored by CASA, Court-Appointed Support Advocates, and Capstone. It brings the community awareness to pay attention and be alert. Both agencies have many volunteers that make a difference for families in our community. The Light of Hope breakfast was an idea a volunteer had 10 years ago, Katie Camacho. Her mother is one of our parishioners. So it is one story of many opportunities in our community to step forward and make a difference. We have many others in this church family here that make a difference, and it's important for us to pay attention to the needs in our community. Our gospel today has 2 stories where Jesus demonstrates his faith through action. It also highlights a woman stepping out of her comfort zone to make a difference for her daughter. I wanted to share one commentary that described the magnitude of her discomfort. A Greek-speaking Syrian immigrant, a single mother with a chronically ill child, reached out to a man who were not her people, wasn't her religion, didn't speak her language, whose people hated the region she lived in a culture where a woman who wasn't your mother, wife, or sister talking to a man in public was considered shameful. And she did it all for the sake of her daughter. She refused to stay in the place her culture assigned her. And if she had, her daughter would not have been healed. She was so brave. Maybe the miracle we should pay attention to in this story was not Jesus healing her daughter. Maybe the miracle Mark wants us to notice is this woman crossing all those scary, painful boundaries. Jesus saw her full humanity and responded as a human being. She told him about someone in need. Jesus listened to the need and took action. Responding to the needs of another almost always require crossing a comfort zone, some barrier or a boundary to an uncomfortable place. Maybe the most profound healing in our lives takes place when we don't stay in our place. when we step out of our comfort zone. In my studies this week, another commentary opened my eyes to something I had not noticed before. In our second story in the gospel today, Jesus has brought a deaf man who had a speech impediment. Jesus takes him aside in private, away from the crowd. And if you think about Jesus, at this point, he's exhausted and tired. And he looks up to heaven, and he sighed. Those two words, he sighed. I never paid attention to that before. It shows his humanity. It made me think about when I sigh. Generally, it is to stop, reflect, take a deep breath, and generally I'm asking the Lord to be with me as I move out of my comfort zone, like right before a sermon. When do you sigh? Have you heard others sigh? I never thought about this brief moment in time. It helps me get through the difficult times. Following Jesus' sigh, he says epitha, that is, be opened, and immediately the man was healed. I'm going to think about sighs differently from now on and make sure that I'm in dialogue with my Creator. Be opened can also be a message to us. We have faith, but are our hearts open to others? I do like acronyms to help me remember things. So if we think of the word open, opportunity. We have an opportunity each day to show our faith. We can make a difference in someone's life. It can be simple as a smile or a kind word to a stranger. Pay attention. The P, people. People are all around us. Pay attention. We can make a difference to one another, and Christ is revealed through others. The E, make an extra effort every day. And the N, need. There are many needs in our world today, so pay attention. So open your heart to opportunity, people, extra effort every day for needs. Open your heart. You can make a difference. I will close with a poem by J. Janda. You cannot change others, no, but you can see them with new eyes, Christ's eyes, who sees all with respect and understanding. Open your heart, make sure your faith has action, and you hear this whenever we are released. Go forth to love and serve the Lord. Amen.